All right, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Are you good?
We're wasting all the good stuff.
Are you all right? What's going on, Motorsports fans? This is Jared here with the Bearded Garagistas. Always with me is my brother Brett.
How you doing?
And today I'm speechless before we start. I'm so excited to introduce Mr. Tommy Byrne.
Thank you. Thank you, Jared and Brett.
The infamous one.
HA Only, your one-stop shop for Honda and Acura news, racing, and shows. Check out haonly.com. King Buddha CBD, high-performance hemp, providing high-quality THC-free products. Find more information at kingbuddhacbd.com. The International Roll Racing Association. The International Roll Racing Association, IRRA, is the first ever sanctioning body for the sport of roll racing. Become a professional race driver at raceirra.com.
I'll tell you that without embarrassing or anything like that, because I know sometimes, I read the book. If you haven't read the book, read the book. The DVD was great as well, but there's so much more in the book, and you really need to read the book that he wrote.
Got to do the book.
Where do you get it from?
Where'd I get the what?
Where do you buy the book?
Where do I buy the book?
From you,
Your
my man.
website.
craftsandburn.com.
Oh, it's going to
Yep.
be plastered all over this TV. Yep. It'll be everywhere. We'll let you know where to get it. I'll paste it at the bottom right now. You'll probably be seeing that website.
And if you think you found it somewhere else, you
You're wrong.
didn't.
You're wrong. You can only get it from the website. It's exclusive. Don't be falling for that knockoff brand
Oh, you
stuff.
can get the other ones, but they're not mine.
Yeah, and they're a lot more expensive too.
Yeah, it's,
A lot.
But
It's a ripoff.
does anybody really pay $200 for a Tommy Byrne book? Probably not.
It's worth it.
They're trying to get it.
Well, if you want something special, comment below, DM us, and we might be able to hook you up with something.
We'll see. Listen,
Something.
Let me lay it out there like this. Why I'm so excited to have Mr. Byrne here. Tommy, do I call you Tommy or Mr. Byrne?
Tommy's good.
Tommy's good.
He's like,
I thought I knew a lot about racing. I thought I was a pretty good historian. When you asked to list off the best drivers in the world, the best drivers in history, you go down the list, Schumacher, Senna, and everybody, regurgitates the same names. And after doing a little bit of research after I read the book and then researching everything that was in the book, I always like to make sure everybody's saying the same thing. No offense, but I like to make sure that nobody's kind of like, patting themselves on the back.
Absolutely.
So I do a little research, and I found out that there's a name missing from the list. So I'm very excited to have you here with us today.
I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you to Ken Bear as well.
Yeah, Ken
Yes.
Bear hooking us up.
Now, I just want to know, so I look at that camera when you're looking at me, and when you're looking at that one, I look too. Or not?
You can look wherever
this
you
one
want.
picks up all three. This one's just on you.
Great.
Yeah, it's a little.
I just have to figure out which side to pull up.
So, do you want to start with the first question? Or you want me to?
I think yours was the first question, so you
So-
can take it.
I remember
Give it some background.
where you grew up. Was poor upbringing. All right. How many rooms were in the house that you were in?
3.
Three rooms.
I mean, our house was burned down when I was like maybe 5 or 6 years of age.
Okay.
And then I know we had to go live with my aunt, and there was like 8 of us, plus my aunt, which was 7. So,
Wow.
So there was like 7 people living in a 2-bedroom house for a couple of years, because it took a couple of years to build a house. But once we got the house built, it was 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. My sister got really upset when she read the book, because obviously it portrays my family as being totally poor. But we weren't. I mean, we just didn't have the extra. But
By Irish standards of the time, though, like, meaning what you had and your family had, poor, comfortable, whatever, is different in other countries.
yes,
So by the time, was your family comfortable, poor?
yeah, we were comfortable. And if I didn't get what I wanted, I just stole it.
fair enough.
I got, like, we didn't have extra bikes, and they were better than it sounds. but no money for racing, of course.
Right,
yeah.
My mom and dad they didn't even know what a race car was, and that all just happened with me and my friends.
Now, you said you had that Catholic upbringing. And it
Yeah.
was weren't very. Were you able to speak your mind when you were a kid?
Well, I did obviously, but the Catholic upbringing. Well, you know, there's certain things. There's mortal sins, and there's venial sins.
Okay.
And a mortal sin is if you say fuck, that's a mortal sin. So you're going straight to hell.
Oh,
That's
geez.
how we were taught. And then venial sin would be like bastard or cunt, or there's smaller venials. And if you say them enough, it turns into a big one, which is a mortal sin, and you're going to go to hell. You're always going to go to hell, and because it didn't take much as a Catholic growing up.
Right.
And I for sure was going to go to hell because I broke into the church. Well, we didn't have to break into church because the church is always open. Because kids are always love to go into churches when they're supposed to be open and closed. And me and one of my friends, I think it was probably 9 or 10 at the time, we had a heist and we stole the black baby's money from the box from the church.
Oh.
Yeah, that's it. That's not just a mortal sin. That's I'm going to hell. So I was going to hell long time ago.
That's money that's intended to go to feed kids in Africa.
Feed black people in Africa. It was called the black baby's box.
Yeah.
And it was written on it. And so I think I got, out of the whole heist, it was me and my friend, and I think I got 6 pence out of it. And he got 6 pence. And then he told his brother, who told the mother, who went to school and told the priest and told the...
Snitches.
So we got snitched on and got the shit beat out of us.
Oh, man.
For robbing the black baby's box.
The reason I'm sorry, but the reason why I ask you that is because, you know, reading the book, you know, you get this like picture in your head of how things used to be, how you used to be, and then you start to question why you were the way you were. Our dad is very outspoken. If he wants to say something, he's going to say it, and then I feel like that kind of rubbed off on me a little bit.
You don't say. You don't
kiss
say.
my ass. He's better at holding his tongue than I am. What do you think made you so outspoken to speak your mind?
I have no idea. I just know that sometimes shit came out of my mouth when it shouldn't have. You know, like, it's just I couldn't help myself. I would say something really dumb or
Did
stupid.
you realize you were doing it?
No. I wouldn't even know at all until I got older. And then I went, oh, that was weird. I probably shouldn't have said that. But at the time, I didn't even... You don't think anything of it.
Sure.
And then you go racing and you start winning races and winning a bunch of races. You don't even know you're doing it. And
Are there people trying to get you to change that behavior along the way?
there's no...
You didn't have a coach or anything
When
like
you
that.
start, this is the days before coaches. When you go from Ireland to England, I remember I had a lot of friends to be able to do this. There was no money. I borrowed a car. We bought a race car for 1,200 euros in 1976 or something. And that money was borrowed. I don't even know where I borrowed it from, but it was borrowed. And so we borrowed the money, and then you go racing, then you crash the car, and you borrow a car to pull the race car, and then you borrow a trailer to put the race car on the trailer. So everything was borrowed, and you're driving back and forth. And so that's how I started off getting to the races and getting home, and nothing. And just enough money for gas. So who's buying the petrol, you know? So
Right.
somebody would jump in and buy it. There was never a plan. The plan was, because I never wanted to be a race car driver, I wanted to be a mechanic.
Really?
Just a mechanic. I love cars, love mechanical stuff, and I was going to come to America as a welder. When I wanted to come over when I was 16 because of John Wayne. Because we watched John Wayne movies growing up, and I just loved America, watching all the John Wayne movies. So I was going to come to America at 16, 17 as a welder because I was welding at the time, and I ended up, going racing. I went to a school in Mondello, a race school, and I did 15 laps for 15 pounds at the time, and I spun off 7 times in the wet, and I finished like 6 out of 7 laps.
Wow.
And I got out of the car and I thought, wow, I'm just the best. I'm best driver in the world, and I'm going to be a race car driver
Right.
instead of being a welder in America.
Growing up, did you always want out of Ireland?
No. Only when I started watching John Wayne movies and it was so hot.
Goddamn John Wayne.
It was like always so warm,
Right.
watching the movies and stuff, and I hated the cold. So I didn't leave Ireland because I hated the small town of Dundalk or Blackrock that I would grow up in. Basically, I left it because of the cold, and the same with England. I just can't stand the cold.
So going over to England was never on your radar or something you wanted
No,
to do?
the only reason I went to England was
For a few reasons.
for racing.
Right.
Because once I discovered I was the best driver in the world, then obviously the next thing is you have to go to England. You see Derek Daly, David Kennedy in the papers, in the motor racing papers, and you think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of where you start, and then you just get this. You're going, and you got your group of friends, and here we go.
If you wanted to be a race car driver, was there any other place you could go to do that, or was England the only place?
If you want to move on and be successful and get to Formula One, you have to go to England.
Is that just because that's they're passionate about it, and that's
Most of the
hub
teams,
of racing?
most of the Formula One teams come from England.
Still to today.
Yeah, the home of racing is basically England, and that's where you go. And obviously, the Formula Ford Festival is the big one. At the time, that's where people were coming from. Drivers were coming from all over the world. I think 185 entries, 187 entries from all over the world. And I went over there in 1977 with John Murphy and Martin Donnelly, when Martin Donnelly was a kid before his accident. And I went over there in 1977 to do the Formula Ford Festival. If you win the Formula Ford Festival,
You're
wow,
something.
you got a chance to get a works drive. We wanted to, because at that time there was like 3 or 4 different companies giving free drives to really good drivers to sell the cars. The more you won, the more to sell. Just like a little bit like NASCAR.
How many times did you race the festival?
I did it at least 5 times, which
Wow.
a lot of people don't even know, because you don't do the festival 5 times. I did it 77, and I don't know what happened. Oh yeah, no, and one of the quarterfinals I was up to France, so that's when people started the buzz.
Right.
I call it the buzz. People start talking about it. You think that crazy Irish guy, and he's good if he can. But of course, I crashed. That was 77, then 78. I think I did it in 78 as well. I can't remember. 79, I did it with not a winning team, because I left my team at that time. 80, I finished second to Roberto Moreno, and 81, I won in Senna's car. That's the reason I did it that last time.
Right.
But that's the change of your life. The Formula Ford Festival in England back in the day, everybody came from all over. It was a big party, racing and partying.
We'll get to where your career went, but if something's held you back, what do you think are the top things that held you back?
I wasn't held back too much. I won 6 championships in 3 years. So
That's what I'm saying.
impressive.
Yeah.
So impressive.
I mean, I wasn't held back at all.
I have a question.
When
about
you're
the
winning,
time. Yeah.
you're not held back,
That's
and everybody loves you, and everybody's clapping you on the back, and nobody will tell you the truth, and it's great. So there's no holding back. But then when you stop winning, then everything changes.
When back then, nowadays you have driving coaches, you have political coaches that literally stand next to the driver in those interviews. And
Press officers.
Yeah, they're like, don't say that. Or,
Muskrat.
As far as the driving coach goes,
Yeah.
did they have driving coaches back then?
No.
Okay, so there was no such thing as like you would have needed a driving coach to get to where you were. Because
No.
to me, I'm thinking to myself like, man, you just in 4 years you went from racing nothing.
No, the best driver in the
Formula
world
One.
doesn't need a driving coach. Remember, that was a joke. You give me that dirty look.
There's no dirty look.
No, you learn by crashing.
Yeah.
Like now, a young kid today on the way up will save. If they get a driver's coach, they'll probably, what's wrong? They'll probably save at least a year of their career, maybe 2. And it's not just a driver coach. That's what a good driver does, helping them make the right decisions, as well as, don't do this. And you know what? Instead of winning by, a lap, just win by a foot.
Yeah.
Stuff that I learned. So you learn that type of stuff. I learned my craft from crashing. I crashed for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you just learn, not to crash. And the goal is to go as fast as you possibly can without crashing. And sometimes, it starts off like in 1979 when I went to England at first, I probably had 30% crashes. But the year before, I had 100% crashes.
We had a guy on recently who said, he was talking about an engine and the car, but he said if you're winning, you don't change anything.
Yeah.
So same thing for a driver.
For me, yeah. I think if you're winning, leave everything as is. I won most of my championships just by not changing much on the car either. Where were we before that?
The ability to like watch a replay though now and see like
Yeah.
you didn't hit the apex
Yes.
here. You have a foot to the apex. Back then you didn't have that ability.
No, but that's a mortal sin if you're a race car driver to miss an apex.
Well, you were joking about coaches, but last year, and I think he was the only one on the grid to have it, Lance Stroll had Juan Pablo Montoya in his garage trying to give him some tips here and there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good coach to have.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, Montoya.
I don't think he's there this year, though.
No, but Lance Stroll is doing a pretty good job. The guy can drive. You can say what you want about him.
Yep.
But even though he might come from a rich family and the dad bought the team, but he's a driver.
Yep.
Because that Perez is a pretty good driver too, and to beat him, he's doing a good job. I think he got
Especially today. I think with the rumors going around about Vettel maybe going to Aston Martin, I think that lit a fire under Stroll's ass to get the
Proof,
lead out.
and he qualified first, good for
Yeah.
the first time in a long time, and
No, he got a bad run there for a while just because the dad was a lot of money. The guy is actually a pretty good driver.
Yeah.
I think Perez is shitting a brick.
Yeah.
Do you like nowadays with seeing people like that where they kind of either just like waltz right in the door? You can go drink. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's such a huge bottle.
You're a dick.
I've never seen such a big bottle before.
Brett tried to buy the smaller ones. He was.
You're gonna put that in?
Apparently,
Really? I
Brett
think it's
went to
good.
the store to try to buy a bottle of water, small bottles of water.
You remember
And,
how Jared said I'm the reserved one and I don't, give any tongue lashings? Yeah, 7-Eleven might not feel the same.
It's the kind of bottle that you have to drink it like this because it's so big and embarrassing. But hey,
Thanks, Tommy.
nowadays where people are kind of like just like walking in the door. There's actually a video I saw on YouTube not too long ago that said who had the easiest path to Formula One, and it listed all these drivers. And obviously your path was not very easy. If you would have had the money, you would have just walked through the door. But you also said in your book many times that you weren't the type of person to go like knocking down people's doors. Is that something that to give a message to somebody now? I'm not asking you, would you have changed it?
you have to. I mean,
But
you
for
just-
somebody now,
I did it my way. I did it like a different way. I was knocking doors all right, but just in a different way. Like I wasn't good at getting sponsorship. I could get little bits and pieces of people to help me, but back in the day, you needed like $100,000, not $100. So to do that, you better get on. It's easier today to be able to email somebody or,
Right.
or go on Facebook or whatever. You can find anybody you want, send them a letter, and then say, hey, I need, give them a proposal. And the worst thing they can say is no. You're not going to be devastated. I just didn't like being told no. It's hard. I'm not a great salesman, no matter what people might think. But you have to do a little bit of everything today to be able to make it to go racing. It's very, very hard.
The book referenced that your upbringing may have made you feel words a little bit more than others. Do you feel that way?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I know that every day from the time that I drove the car at Mandela Park and for my 15 laps and spun 7 times, from that day until I quit, after the end of the 6 championships, I did nothing except wake up and think about how am I going to get to the next level? How am I going to get to the next level? The car will be in pieces in the garage, not the garage, the garage. It'll be in pieces, and I'm thinking, my mom would say, now what are you going to do? No money. We're talking like a couple of £1,000 to fix it. And I always figured out how to get it fixed and how to go the next day. And that's just something that I was able to do. And I would never have been able to get to England if I wasn't able to do that. And then the same thing when you go to England, you have to winning. Winning means everything. And because it's easier to go to a sponsor if you just won. And that's when you make hay while the sun shines. But once you stop winning, it's very difficult to go. Winning's the easiest way. That's how I got to where I got.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get to that winning streak, and then I knew what I was worth. I knew that I could drive. I was finally convinced even though I say, yeah, I'm the best driver in the world, it was nice when I started winning. Because then you go, oh, thank God, I really am pretty good.
What's your perspective on nowadays? Because nowadays, like in football, or I guess you know it as American football, but like soccer, all those things, there are people that will give up the possibility to win a championship for a big contract, right? And in racing, it kind of goes the other way around. The big contracts come with winning the championships for most of the drivers, but a lot of the race teams gave up. I believe they gave up a chance at the best drivers for the ones that came up with the most money. And it bothers me because nowadays because I read your book, but your book definitely helped the idea that I can sit and watch these racers that are on TV right now in all the different NASCAR and IndyCar and all, and I'm thinking to myself, are these really the best drivers in the world, or are these just the ones that were funded the best?
Well, I mean, obviously it's easier to get sponsorship for the son of Bill Elliott than it is for some guy that just comes from nowhere and walks up and says, "Hey, I want to be a NASCAR driver, and I'm really, really good. Can you give me a chance in your car?" And they go, "Well, you got Bill Elliott's son, and the rest of them after that." They come first because that's easier to sell to the sponsor. So they have no choice. Somebody has to pay. There's only in IndyCars, there's probably only like maybe let's say the top half of the drivers are getting paid. Formula One is probably the same. Yes, after that they all have to bring the deals to get but there's very few teams can go out and say, okay, I want you, you, you. There's probably only like, I would say a quarter of the teams can pick and choose the drivers. And then the sponsor might turn and say, yeah, but I don't want him. So, I mean, it is what it is. Of course, when I was a kid, I'd think, oh, man, I'm better than him. And we all think the same thing, but it's business. And the teams are always going to be there. The drivers come and go. The teams are always going to be there, and they have to pay the bills. Now, I'm getting older. I understand all that now.
Back then, what was your feeling on it?
Back then, I just thought, hey, I'm the best driver. I don't understand why I should be in there and not him.
Who, in your opinion, who is the most close to your skill level that you race with?
Well, back in the time, and again, people think you're cocky because you say you're the best driver in the world. I think it helped me by about maybe 0.3 of a second per lap.
Just being that confident,
knowing that
Wow.
that I'm. So it does make a difference because years later, when I came to America, I couldn't be that confident anymore because they didn't care. So I probably lost about a second a lap when I started racing over here. So, but I don't know what your question was. I already forgot.
No, you
You forgot to.
fuck, I forgot to. Just let's take a sip out of the big water bottle.
Try the big water bottle.
Drivers.
What'd I say? You're the one with the memory here, guy.
If there's any driver.
What driver was on your level? Of
I know what
skill?
you're trying to say. I'm not. You want me to say Senna?
No, I don't. No. Listen. I'm gonna let you know right now. I have no reservations. I came into this with no expectations.
At the time, obviously, I'm trying. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
There's probably a small time guy.
At the time,
you
you could never admit that there's a driver better than you.
Right.
And again, as I said, people might have thought I might have been a cocky bastard for saying, hey, there's nobody better than me. But can you imagine going to a Ron Dennis and then Ron would say to you, or Roger Penske, so do you think you're the best driver out there? And you might go, I don't know. I'm really good, but I could be better maybe. I don't know, Roger or Ron. No. And then you say, hey, of course I'm the best out there. But you have to let your record prove that. And if your record proves it, then you shouldn't have to say too much.
Right.
Like if you ask Senna, do you think you're the best driver? If a journalist asked him at the
He'd
time.
tell you 100% yes.
No, at the time. So I heard, and you think, you think you're better than these guys out there? And he just go. But he just gives them a disgusting look.
And going into the final round of the 1982 Marlboro Formula 3 Championship, level on points with Enrique Mansilla. Into the 20th round here at Thruxton. It's a little bit damp. Your second quickest in practice. How's the race going to go?
Well, I don't know until I start up. But if it rains, I would rather it wet than dry, because everybody has to learn how to drive in the wet, and I think maybe I could learn a little bit quicker than the other two. So I'd like it to, really sort of come down now.
Just how important is winning the Marlboro Formula 3 Championship Series to you in 1982?
Well, for me, you must remember I went to Formula 1, so I missed 4 races. So personally, my career, it wouldn't make that much difference if I didn't win it. But I want to win it for myself and for the people that came to watch me all year.
The series itself has been very exciting this year. We've just had some good races. It couldn't be any more exciting, of course, than coming down to the last round here at Thruxton. What are the tactics going to be? If you and Mansilla are almost level pegging side by side, we're going to have to see a little bit of, what can I say, a bit of controversial racing?
Well, I don't think anybody's going to give up very easy, especially not me, not after coming all this way. And you must remember, I think everybody seems to have forgot that I did miss 4 races out of it.
Okay, we'll see you on the track. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You give a disgusting look. Yeah. Whereas I would turn and go, yeah, sure, I'm the
Were you? You have a reputation of being outspoken. Were you?
Yeah. Well, then,
Plain and simple,
and,
just fact,
and
yes.
then again, I was funny, and that didn't help me either because I joked around a lot. I don't know why I did it, but I joked around a lot, and people would say, so I could start halfway down the grid. I remember one day something happened to my car, and at Brands Hatch, and I was starting like on the 5th row. And my mechanics were going, Tommy, you're such a wanker, you know, you're starting back in the 5th row. And I'm just going, yeah, but I'm not going to be there for long. Just watch. These guys stand at the first turn and just watch me going through the first turn. I'll be right up there, probably in first. And I'll give you the hang 5. And sure enough, I got a great start from there, and I passed like 6 or 7 cars, and I'm going for the lead around the outside in turn 1. And with one hand, and I remembered they were all just sitting up there like you know, yeah, wanker Tommy. I went,
Get out of here.
and then I kept going. So a lot of that stuff, and then people probably thought that he doesn't take it serious. I just couldn't help myself. I mean, I was able to
Having a blast.
I was able to jump into a car at the last minute, having a blast, but deep down knowing that I better back it up, and I most of the time backed it up.
But you had, and there's one year in particular, 81, I think 82, where you had to win every race, otherwise it wasn't going forward.
1982. Most of my career for those 81 and 81 as well. I mean, because we didn't have a budget in 81 either when I did the European Championship and the British. So all my life from I got to Formula 1 that time, I nearly always had to be winning to try and move on because there's no other way of. I didn't have the budget to move on.
We've talked before about like top athletes, seemingly in racing even more. You have to be able to perform under pressure. Did that attitude of, not I don't give a shit, but I'm so comfortable and confident in what I'm doing that nothing else can affect me?
Well, you guys are tough. No, I might have laughed and joked and jumped in the car at the last minute, which I was quite capable of doing, because I would watch all the other guys sitting in there, and they got their heads down and they're focusing, and I just fucked with them. So I'd just be walking up the grid, and I'd just get in, 5 minutes to go, and off I go, and I beat them. So probably I was doing it. That was my way, maybe of.
You were the
wrestling.
Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo of your time.
Probably, yeah. Now you asked me, good drivers at the time. Yes, I was the best, of course. But looking back on it now, of course, Roberto Moreno was really good.
Yeah.
Senna, of course, went on to be one of the best in the world. Yeah. But I actually never raced against him. There was another guy called Fernando Guerrero in 1979, and he actually got my attention. I never told anybody at the time, but he was a crazy bastard. And he was Jesus Saves. He used to have a Jesus Saves on the side of the car. Mm-hmm. And when he won the race, he'd put, and this is when we were learning our craft. Yeah. That guy was just, I used to watch him and go, shit, that guy's pretty good. But I never admitted that to him now.
That's what I was asking.
And then he quit. He never did.
Really?
Yeah. Then he
just walked away.
He walked away from the sport. His brother was a big racer, Fernando, not Fernando Guerrero. That's a Mexican guy. His brother was really good in Formula 2, and this guy, he was awesome. He was a really fast driver, and he quit. I think he did like one more year in 1980 and went off somewhere else, probably to be a minister or something.
I think the way you acted and the way you carried yourself, I think was also almost slightly intimidating some people, probably racing you. But the night before a race, what was it like for you? Were you ever nervous, or you just kind of going through the motions?
Oh, of course. 1979, when I went to England at first, I needed to win. I had a works drive. I got a free drive in England in 1979. It just never happens. Like a $50,000 drive because Byrne Devani, the Irish driver, put my name forward to PRS, the people who made the car company. I already owned the PRS because I bought one from them, and so I had it. But unfortunately, the car wasn't really up to. It wasn't as quick as the Van Diemen's and cars like that.
Was that one of the property loans, the PRS?
Yes, that was the $4,500 property loan. Yeah, for the house, for the garage that was being built for my sister because she was pregnant. And
Gotta do what you gotta do.
so I got over there and I'm not winning. No, that's when I was crashing 25, 30% of the time. Now I'm with a real team. And the team owner tried to do everything and blame me. But I used to start looking at the times of Byrned the year before, and I'm doing the same times as him, but I'm doing a different championship with all the other guys are there. So I'm getting killed. We could have picked easier championships so as it looked better. But the car just wasn't great on fast turns. And of course, I got my chance. This is my chance. So I'm not winning. Yeah, every time we get in the car at 8 o'clock in the morning and do a 10-minute qualifying, practice qualifying, whatever it was. Then we didn't race until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So we had to wait around from 10 from 10 after
You're
8
cold by the
in the
time you get
morning
back in the car.
all the way to the end.
Wow.
And I was sick to my stomach all day long. And I didn't eat. I never ate nothing. Sick to my stomach for the first. And when I won my first race in the Nürburgring, once I won my first race, that's it. I wasn't sick to my stomach anymore.
Yeah.
But I learned as well by me being sick to my stomach, nervous and everything. Then I was able to watch the other drivers and I could see that they were going through the same thing I was going through a couple of years ago.
Right.
Even though I got out of mine. Mine just went away after I started winning races. I was sick because I wanted to win so bad.
Yeah.
But I could watch them and I'd know that, he's under pressure too and he's feeling like what I used to feel like.
One of the things, the difference, at least from my viewing of it between the movie and the book, was I almost get the feeling from the movie that they wanted to show you as partying all the time.
Yeah.
And the book almost has none of that.
Because it didn't really happen that much until after Formula One. Once I won my 5 championships, 6 championships, got to Formula One, didn't work out because wrong car, wrong time. It was after that I kind of, once I knew that there was no more Formula One, I certainly let my hair down a little bit, but it wasn't terrible. When I came to America, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I almost felt like they wanted to portray you as like Hunt out drinking, rocking up to Formula 3, winning, drunk, and I mean, there may have been some cases of that maybe, but
There was a couple of cases where I did win, but
Back then,
not
everybody was doing that.
But that wasn't in England. That was when I came to America. A lot of it American, Mexico mostly. The Formula over there it really wasn't that much different. I mean, there was no working out in those days.
right.
Like Mario Andretti didn't work out. None of the drivers worked out.
Right.
Showed up and he raced.
They just showed up in the race. Now some people did, but it was Schumacher brought physical fitness into Formula One. So, I mean, Gary Anderson will tell you to this day that I wasn't doing anything different than anybody else. It's just I wrote a book years later about it, so I told some of this stuff. So then I told it myself.
Yeah.
But no, there was never any crazy on purposely. Oh, I'm going to go get shit-faced. Yes, I would have a few drinks, sometimes too many. Yeah, I did drink the night before the British Formula 3 race that I won.
Fuck it.
Yeah, that
You
was
won.
one. That was something that I'm probably looking back on it, not the place to be drinking
No.
in Brands Hatch at a Formula 1 race, in the supporting race. Yeah,
Jesus.
for sure. Yeah, I did. And I was up to like 12 o'clock or something. But we used to stay in a secret place across the road, bed and breakfast, so nobody would know what we were doing. So we used to keep it like quiet. A lot of people did the same thing. But that was one of my things I probably couldn't do properly, hide. And right there in Brands Hatch in the Formula 3 race.
So your life wasn't as depressing as the movie makes it seem.
No, absolutely.
When I was reading the book, I'm like, man, that sounds fun.
No,
that
I
sounds fun.
had a lot of fun. Yeah.
What you said a lot in the book that, anytime you really went up to a mechanic, they gave you pushback, like you don't know what you're talking about. And you said your main goal was to be a mechanic.
Yes.
Does that happen with every driver, or was that just you?
No, well, I learned how to set cars up between Ralph Furman, who the man that owned Van Diemen. He was the best in the best in the country. And so I learned from him, and then I worked on my own car in 1980 when I won the 2 championships. So I learned about cross weights, tire pressures, springs, roll bars. I learned about all that stuff. And then once I came to it was actually mostly in America. Well, the Formula One guy obviously didn't listen to me. The team
Yeah,
managers there.
that's what I'm mainly asking.
Yeah, no, but he wouldn't have listened to me regardless of what. He had his mind made up.
Was everybody on the grid that way? The mechanics in Formula One, were they all that
No.
cocky?
No.
Oh, he
If
was
you-
just an ass.
I just found out years later he didn't even want me on the team. They didn't want me. It was the Irish guy that ran the team. He wanted me, but the Sidney Taylor, he was the one that got me the deal. He's an Irish guy. He's a friend of Sidney Taylor, or he's a friend of Teddy Ebb, Theodore Racing. But Joe Ramirez and Julian Randles, they didn't want me at all. I found that out 25 years later when we were writing the book, because they told Mark Hughes.
So if they didn't
so
like
if I
you,
had
they
known, at the time, of course, you can't go win races when the team's against you, and those
No.
guys are against me.
So if they didn't like you back then, they just try to railroad you?
Yeah.
How does that make even sense? Like,
It's just great. That's what happened. It's just nuts that somebody would give up a good driver just because they don't want you in the team. I wasn't ready.
how many drivers put everything they have into racing and don't make it?
Oh shit, lots. I just happened to be one of the more famous ones because I won so much beforehand to get there, and I got to drive the McLaren. So I got to drive the Theodore and the McLaren within 3 months of each other, because I got the prize for winning.
That's like today, George Russell driving a Williams,
Yes.
and then 3 months later getting into a Mercedes.
Yes, absolutely. So my career was finished in Formula One. I went really, really fast, and I got to drive the best car on the grid. So I knew that, hey, I was pretty good, you know.
So, but
Yeah,
when,
but
when
there's
you were
controversy
driving,
around that too.
Oh yeah.
When you were driving F3,
Now I want to ask him about
Mary
McLaren.
Taylor
Yeah.
needed money,
Yeah.
got you what turned out to be an interview with Ron Dennis, even though,
Yes.
from my understanding, you didn't know that it was that.
Well, I was supposed to go. Murray Taylor needed money in 1982 when I was driving Formula 3, and we had no money. So he said, "Hey, why don't you go to Ron Dennis and see can you get him to sponsor?" Now, Ron didn't sponsor anybody at this stage, like Lewis Hamilton, nothing.
Right.
And then why didn't you go and talk to him and see can you get him to pay the rest of the Formula 3 championship? So they got me a meeting, and I did sit down with Ron Dennis and Tyrrell Alexander and Teddy Mayer. So there were 3 of them in there, and I was supposed to ask them for the money.
Right.
To finish the year, which is £100,000 pounds or something, whatever it was, and it just didn't go well because Ron was interviewing me like I was Ron. You know, I'm just an ordinary guy from Dundalk, and every question he asked me, I answered truthfully, and it just wasn't.
Yeah, but he didn't come from a really prominent background. either.
But if you know anything about Ron Dennis, that's just the way he is. He's just a snob, and so I remember him asking me one thing about. So Tommy, when I asked him for the $100,000 or €100,000, whatever it was at the time. So all our money, Tommy, is tied up in R&D. And I said, "What's R&D?" And then he just looked at me like, research and development. And I kind of knew then that, just the way that all 3 of them, they just looked at me and I went, shit, well, whatever.
But they walked away. They didn't give you anything.
Oh,
But
no,
they had.
No, I did actually. They had an option on my services.
Right.
So they signed me as an option, but no money or
For
nothing.
nothing.
I don't even know where the contract is now, but I know that I was signed. I got no money. They got my option on my services if they wanted it. And that's when I got offered to drive Formula One.
Yeah. You had to
To
call
Theodore,
them.
I had to call Ron Dennis and I said, "Hey, Ron, these guys want me to sign a 3-year deal. And what's your advice? And, what do you have anything for me?" He goes, "No, we have nothing for you, Tommy. But our advice to you is just sign a 1-year deal."
Why?
And then I went back to the team who didn't want me, Julie Randalls and Joe Ramirez, who now I know they didn't want me.
Yeah.
I went back and said, "Hey, Ron Dennis said that, I should just sign a 1-year deal." And they went, "Sorry, Tommy, it's a 3-year deal on nothing." I went back to Ron. They said, "Ron, it's a 3-year deal on nothing." And he goes, our advice to you as McLaren would be just sign a 1-year deal. And I said, well, do you have anything for me next year after that? Or, he said, no. But that's what just telling you. I said, okay.
Do you have any theories as to why?
No.
I think he was being a dick.
I don't know.
My follow-up is...
But then I went back to those guys
almost-
and said, yeah, right, sure. It's a 3-year deal or nothing. So, okay.
You went Formula One, let's take it, right?
It's the only thing on your plate.
But-
What are you going to do? You got to make that
Well,
deal.
you're killing it in F3, right? Though you don't want to stay there, could your...
But you can't stay there. You win the Formula 3 championship, you have to move on. There's no...
Were there any other options?
No.
You had to take Theodore.
No, everything was... Oh, absolutely. Everything was done. For that, I did Formula 3 and Formula 1 the same year, and I still won the championship. And that's never been done before. I would fly... When I didn't qualify for the Formula 1 race in the Theodore, I would fly home and jump into a Formula 3 car the next day, which was weird because it's like bicycle tires compared to what... Because we used to sit on top of the front wheels were like right out there, and then I get into the Formula 3 car the next day, and the little wheels were way up there, so it was kind of
Big
weird.
adjustment.
It took about 2 or 3 laps to figure it out.
You didn't
again.
have any other choice. You this is
absolutely.
what you had to
No
do.
choice. And by the way, you turned down the Formula 1 drive as Tommy Byrne with no money, and they think, the fuck does that cocky bastard think he is turning down the drive? There's no choice. You had to take it. There was nothing else.
Yeah, because one might sit there and say, all right, well, maybe if he passed on Theodore where he would have been back, maybe somebody else would have come along and given him something else. There was nothing.
Everybody was signed. There was no testing deals in those days, and everybody was signed up for the next year. And I already knew when I won the test for winning the Formula 3 championship. I won a test in the McLaren Formula 1 car, and then I knew before I got into it that I wasn't going to get a drive in it because Ron already told me that his drivers were signed, and everybody was signed for the next year.
Everything.
So I knew that wasn't happening.
Were you trying to show other teams what you had?
I was trying to show the asshole that I drove with in the slow car that I could drive. And I told him, I said, you come and watch me when I get into Nikolai's car, and I'll prove to you that I can drive.
Because they were saying it was you.
Of course, they were telling me that I didn't know how to drive. If Keke Rosberg was in my car, he'd be on pole.
Which is not true because I looked up the stats.
I was just telling him to go
and
fuck off. I was
Keke
crazy
Rosberg
with
wasn't.
anger when this guy was telling me all this stuff. So I didn't do myself any favor. But at the same time, you're telling the guy that just won all these championships to get to Formula 1, you're telling him he can't drive? What would you do? So come and see me, watch me drive this McLaren, and I'll show you. And that's what happened.
So we can cut this out if you want, but I have this thing I'm working on the side, going back, watching. F1 TV has archives of footage, races all the way back to 1981. You can watch the whole series. So I'm trying to work on something for the show where I'm going to review each season. What I got out of 1982 was Keke Rosberg is the luckiest champion, maybe one other in F1 history, that Didier Pironi got hurt, that Joe Villeneuve lost his life. I mean, I watched that season, and I'm thinking Keke Rosberg should not have won.
Well, I think he was the first guy. Wasn't he the first one to win against the turbochargers? He had a normally aspirated car, and
he frequently
and he
was
never
the
won,
highest.
and he never won a
naturally
race.
aspirated. He won one.
He won one race, okay. And Derek Daly was his teammate because Derek used to drive the
Right.
Theodore that I was in. So he was taken out of my team into when somebody who got killed in '82
No, it was
in the Williams.
no. So they had two retirements at the end of '81. Alan Jones retired.
Yeah.
And then the start of '82, Carlos Reutemann was
Carlos
carrying
Reutemann,
over.
he quit.
And then after the first race, he quit.
So then they
and
hired
retired.
Derek. So Derek went
Right.
in. So yeah, they had the two. But yes, he didn't. But he's still a good driver. He just
No.
didn't have the car, obviously. But he did. He won the championship, and he was an ass to me as well. When I did qualify when I did get on the track, Keke Rosberg more than once came up and was giving me the finger and screaming at me, and came up and rapped me on the head once to get the fuck out of the way. And I didn't really appreciate it because I really wasn't getting in his way, but he wasn't one of my buddies.
There's so much about that one year. If Alan Jones stayed, if Carlos Reutemann stayed, Derek Daly would have been stuck in the Theodore.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have gotten called up. Keke Rosberg wouldn't have won the championship. Joe Villeneuve lost his life. Didier Pironi got into an accident because, like you were saying, those cars, the wheels are right there.
Yeah.
The first thing that's
Your
hitting
legs.
into that wall is your legs.
Sure.
And Didier Pironi just snapped both legs, never raced again.
Didier Pironi.
Didier.
I think you were saying Didier. I think it's Didier.
I got a New York accent, man.
Yeah. New York?
Yeah. There's going to be a episode of Wonderful Accents. 2 Long Island boys and an Irish guy.
I didn't know you guys from Long Island. If I had known that, I wouldn't have come.
Oh, man.
So I got the test. And I told everybody, I said, just come watch this. Just come watch me, and you're going to see. And I got there, and I did go out the night before with my buddy, and we met a couple of girls. And so I did everything normal, because I was quite confident with the test, but at the same time, yeah, I was. But anyway, I got to the race the next day, and I did tell my friend John Townsend, who was with me, we brought the girls to the test the next day, Formula 1 test. The biggest test of my life, even though I knew I wasn't going to get a drive out of it, but still. Then I started thinking, shit, I better have him get rid of them. So I said to John, make sure that nobody sees the girls, because one was dressed like really sluttish. And I said, so he kept them away. So nobody even knew that I had 2 girls there until I wrote my book. And I told, so in the book I told it. And then the guy that drove the car first was Thierry Boutsen, who was a Formula 2 driver sponsored by Marlboro. This was a Marlboro test for winning the Formula 3 championship.
Right.
That's why I was there. And I watched him drive the car, and I thought, I was still fairly confident, that things are going to be okay. I was still going to be quick in it. But I heard him telling Tyrrell Alexander or somebody that was there. Ron Dennis wasn't at the test, by the way. I heard him saying the car understeer is really bad. A lot of push. And I'm watching, I'm listening, thinking, shit, I hope that car is as good as I think it is. And I hope I can do what I just told everybody I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so then I started getting the butterflies in my stomach, and then I'm thinking, where the fuck are those girls? I hope they keep them away. But because it's the best team in the world. This is McLaren.
Yeah.
Best team in the world. And so I was having second thoughts, listening to Thierry Boutsen, because I respected him as a driver, because he nearly won the festival a couple of years before that, coming from Belgium or whatever. And so I was very worried. And then when the mechanics changed the car over from his settings, because we all went to McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
Like a month before, we all went separately to get fitted for the car. Very, 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 very well done. And they marked all the pedals and everything. These are Tommy's pedals, these are Thierry's pedals, these are the other guys. It was like 3 people got a test that day. And so whenever I got in, it took them like an hour to switch it over. And I'm still thinking, shit, I hope I can do this now. So I went out and I did install the car, which you do that in the first car. Most people install a Formula 1 car when you drive it. So I went out and I did the first lap, second lap, third lap. Yes, there was a little bit of understeer. And I just braked a little earlier, turned a little bit earlier. We're talking a couple of feet here to fix it, and then back on the gas. It was gone. There was no understeer at all. It was by far the best car. You talk about crazy good and fun, because now I know that, okay, I'm going to be okay. And you couldn't spin it if you tried. You just turn as hard as you could with the Formula 1. My other car, you had to be like this.
Yeah.
And this one
you
was
could really turn in?
Oh, with that
look
naked
now,
out the car?
Yeah. You look now, you look back then compared to the cars that are now. Like back then, I feel like there was a lot less aero, a lot more driver input.
Oh, no, there was ground effect. Back then, the cars had been sucked down to the ground. You didn't see it, but they would have been sucked because they were full ground effect cars and serious amount of grip. And so we all got brand new tires after 15 laps. So it was a 25 lap test or something. So I already went quicker than Thierry Boutsen. And then we put the new tires on, I went back out again. Now I'm really going to go for it. And I had to switch gears because my gear was too short for the chicane. So instead of going through it in third, which everybody does in Formula 1 car, I was going through it in fourth. And then the next turn I was going through it in fourth as well, which was a third gear turn. I just automatically did this. And just the car was crazy fast. And then I see on the pit board, there was no radios. So on the pit board I see a 1 minute 10.1. I went,
That's fast.
that's close to 1 minute 9. People have not been in the 1.9s at Silverstone and only about qualifying tires. So I'm thinking, the next one I'm going to do it.
You're on the race tire too, right?
I'm just a race tire. This isn't even qualifying. Those qualifying tires were 2 seconds a lap different. So I stopped my second lap. The next one when I'm going to get in the nines, I go, shit. I look at the board, 1 minute 10.1. I go, come on. And I had one more chance, and I just put my head down. And this is going to be it. And I went back. 1 minute 10.1, exactly the same time, 3 times in a row, and I didn't
Who was
think.
holding up those times? Was McLaren giving you those times?
It was the McLaren mechanics. With Tyrrell Alexander he was timing,
Right.
and then he gave the mechanic the time.
Again, Terrell Alexander is one of the ones that was in the office with you.
He was one of the ones. He was the main guy with McLaren. So I didn't think nothing. I just thought, oh my God. And then I came into the pits and said, if I had maybe a little bit more front wing on the front, I could take club flat out, and I think I could have got in the nines. That's all I said to the guys. Right. And he said, okay, Tommy, good. Off you go. One of my friends was there, came running over, said, Tommy, we're giving you wrong times. You were doing I was getting a 9.7, 9.6. I'm going, yeah, right. And I didn't think nothing of it. And his name was Joey Greenan. And he told everybody for years later they would listen, and I never listened because Joey's crazy. And, but I just never listened to it. I never even thought that McLaren would do something like, why would they give me the wrong time? I didn't even register it. Best team in the world, sponsored by Marlboro paying for the drive. Didn't even think about it. I didn't believe him.
They don't want to be embarrassed.
But then I started, I don't know why. I wasn't hurting anybody by going fast.
So he's got full-on conspiracy theories here.
So,
and I'm thinking that they put the 10.1 out the first time and then just got real lazy and just kept leave it there, even though you were getting faster.
No, I
They just kept
have
the same size.
listen, this is a
He's got
huge test. This is such a test that
I know.
this makes and breaks people's careers.
Right.
But remember, they weren't going to give me a drive anyhow, so it didn't matter. Joe Ramirez was a friend of McLaren, and he went to work with him later on. I was giving Joe Ramirez shit from the other team. I didn't realize what was going on in the whole
The
background thing.
circle.
I'm telling you.
And yeah, jumping ahead 25 years, I'm over in Elkhart Lake, and I'm doing driver coaching, and I bump into this mechanic called Tony Van Dungen. And Tony said, hey, Tommy, how you doing? I didn't see him for 20 years since that test. He was a mechanic that was there at the McLaren test. He was the one that changed the pedals, him and Scott Riley Scott. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, I'm just, he said, what were you doing? You were so fast that day. You was fucking super fast, and you didn't even have the best car. I said, yeah, Terry Bootson got out, I got in, same car. He goes, yeah, but we were told not to give you full throttle when we put the pedals back in. I went, why? He goes, I don't know, I just didn't want you going quick enough. I went, what? And then it just all came flooding to me. Wait a minute, 10.1, 10.1, 10.1, all the
Almost
same
never
time on the
happens.
last lap. Joey Green was telling me that 9.6 to what he was getting me at, and I didn't believe him. And then here we come to find out 25 years later,
Not even
I didn't
full
have full throttle, which is why I went from third gear to fourth gear, and still went quicker than everybody, including Nicky, who was not there on that day. Nicky Ladd. Bootson was my goal, because he was the superstar. And that for me was like, it just brought it all back again, because I got over it. I was over it. I went drinking for a while, for a couple of years, and party with everybody.
Well, I looked
because you didn't make Formula One, but I was kind of over everything.
Yeah.
And then it was back again. But I was writing my book at the same time. So then I had to get Tony Van Dungen to go
On record and say it.
with Mark Hughes, who was writing my book, to say that, yeah, that's what I did. And when he went to Tony was a little bit more, he told him, and it's all done. And but he did say, yes, we didn't give him full throttle because he gave another reason. But then he got to Ron Dennis. This was the big deal, to try and get Ron Dennis. And Mark Hughes went to Ron Dennis and said, hey, Ron, what about the time when Tommy did the test? Because Tony Van Dungen said you guys didn't give him full throttle. Da-di-da-di-da. He goes, yes, well, that's true. We did not give him full throttle because that was Nicky Lauda's Puka race car, and we didn't want Tommy to be damaging the car because he told a lot of people, what he was going to do. That's why we didn't give him full throttle. Well, my answer to that is, you hit the wall at 175 or 170, you're still fucked.
Right.
And the car's fucked.
Right.
Nicky Lauda's Puka car. So,
Yeah, I don't
see,
like
obviously,
that
and not
shit.
only that did he lie about it, then years later, it turns out that Leo Sayer, remember Leo Sayer, the rock and roll singer back in the in the 80s?
Yeah.
Leo Sayer and Nick Mason drove the same car, my car,
Yeah.
the one I drove the next day, and he wasn't worried about Leo Sayer, a rookie, jumping into the car.
Yeah, he's full of shit.
So for some reason, Ron Dennis, they screwed over my biggest test in the world. Even though there was no drives available, if that 9.2 could have come up with the throttle and with everything else, it could have changed some people's minds.
I think
For sure.
with a fast time like that, I think it would have changed minds. I think also there was a lot of people getting injured back then in those days. You crashed a car, you broke your ankles, like you would have been the first phone call. And I did some research on those times, right? You said 109.
Well, 10.1 was what I did
10.1 was what
officially.
you told, but somebody else clocked it at 9.6, 9.7
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
All right, and that's with not full throttle. And I looked up later on in 1988. Actually, excuse me, 87.
Yeah, have to be careful though, because the cars changed.
Right. Yeah.
No more ground effect.
No more ground effect. But in 87, Nigel Mansell set the lap record at Silverstone at a 109.8
With the turbocharge.
with a turbocharge. So you were before turbocharge. Yes, you had ground effects.
Yeah.
But
The car was like crazy, stuck like glue. Talk about
yeah, but you were with less throttle, and you were still beating the lap record from 5 years later. And even with you look at R&D now and development now of cars, lap records don't stay that long. We're breaking lap record. Lewis Hamilton literally gets on a track and he just sets a new lap record every year.
actually, but by giving me less throttle, it might even have helped me.
You think so?
I don't know, but well, no.
You think you would have jumped on the throttle and spun the back tires? No.
No, it wouldn't. It wasn't enough. It was enough to. I switched gears for sure because I didn't know there was something wrong with the car, but I thought, hey, I'm going so fast, I can do this in fourth gear instead of third. I just was clapping myself in the back, but it turns out that there was no power.
Did ground effect suit your driving style?
Driving style is driving style.
If
You have it regardless.
So
You have to
there's
be able to
very
switch and
little-
choose.
I can't go back and watch you race easily. I can do some clips in the movie. If I were to today want to look at a racer who has a similar driving style to you, who can I look at?
I don't know. I said once to another journalist who came a cross between Gilles Villeneuve and Alain Prost. That's what I thought because I could drive like on the ragged edge, but at the same time, did you hear that? But at the same time,
You could save the car.
I was thinking
Championship.
as well, and my team owner Murray Taylor was there because then, of course, the publicity machine on the after I did the test, the magazine comes out. The God, the Bible of Autosport and Motoring News was the one, and of course it said that Byrne fast. If this was anybody else, this would have been a huge deal. Byrne fast, but too cocky. McLaren didn't like his style, and I said 3 words. If I could put a little bit of wing on, I think I could go flat out through that turn. So for once, I didn't say anything, but they had their mind made up for something. And Murray Taylor, who was so upset with the bad write-up, he took me to have lunch with the journalist. Alan Henry was his name. He's dead now, and he asked me the same thing. Alan Henry asked me, "So, who do you think you'd be? You're as good. Or who would you be likened to as a driver?" And I said exactly like I told you. I said, I think maybe Gilles Villeneuve and Alain Prost, a cross between Alain Prost. And he just choked on his food laughing.
I don't understand why that's funny.
I didn't think it was. I didn't think so at the time. He asked me a simple question. I gave him a simple answer.
Do you think?
And this was after you did the test.
Yeah, this is after I did that.
So
after
what-
after he gave me the bad write up.
What the fuck is funny about that?
Right.
So
he was a dick. Well, I shouldn't say that because he's dead.
If you're a dick, you're a dick. Doesn't matter. I mean,
I knew
respect
he was
to
gonna
him.
say that.
Respect to him. I give him a guy respect. But if you're
He
a dick,
was
you're a dick.
he was a respectful journalist. He just wasn't for me. He didn't like me. Most of them liked me actually. There was like 6 or 7 of them back in the day, and most of them were okay with me. It was just maybe him and maybe a couple of them, which is 2 out of 8. It's not bad.
The people down 2 out of 8. The people that back then, like, did they demand respect because they were in Formula One? Was that like a thing?
I should have for sure. It is better if you said that you were dreamt about being a Formula One driver all your life, and this is the chance you got. Yes, that would have helped me a lot, but I didn't say that because it wasn't true. I didn't dream about being a Formula One driver all my life. I just got into it by accident. I got into racing by accident.
What do you think? So we skipped over a little bit of this, and part of it's because we want you to get the book and everything, but you had a bit of tiptoeing with that legal line when you were a kid in Ireland.
You mean when I got fired for stealing?
Yeah, that.
Why did you have to come around backwards like that? Just ask me. Tell me, did you get fired for stealing?
No, it wasn't even what I was gonna say, but
Oh, I
'cause want
didn't.
them
So
to
I didn't get
the-
fired for stealing. Sorry, shit.
I'm having huge deja vu.
I just put my foot in it. I just admitted something I shouldn't have admitted. Okay.
But you did.
I was 15 years of age. Yeah, I was 15 at the time, and I was being a welder mechanic apprentice. And there was a huge big place with like hundreds of people working there. It was like General Motors, we'd say. And I learned my craft pretty quick. Learned how to weld and do all that. And then I just screwed off, fucked off, and I had my own garage at home because I used to do engines and stuff. And I remember I was going to be a mechanic. And
Need a piece or two.
we had a place to take engines out. And I've worked in cars since I was like 12 or 13 years of age, maybe before that. And of course, I'd always take something home from work. It wasn't called stealing. It was called pilfering. And there was a guy called Marmon the Nixer. He was the number one pilferer. He'd make more stuff and take it home.
He was the number one pilfer.
He was number one. I wanted to be number one too. So I just
Tommy
stole.
always wants to be number one.
I just stole more than anybody else ever did. And my uncle got me the job there. And I was hanging out with all the wrong people. And my poor uncle was just devastated. But I remember once that if it was shiny, I took it. And bolts. And I love welding rods and bolts, any type of bolt. And I used to load up on the way home, wrap it big in my overalls, and I'd just go in like about 100 pounds heavier on the way out than I did on the way in. But I just loved it. I just loved taking stuff that I wasn't supposed to take. I took a big thing from way up in the air, like up in the ceiling. I had to get a big, huge crane that went across the whole building.
What?
I got up there with a cutting torch and we cut it down. I got it out and I stashed it and I got it home in my garage and it's still there back in Ireland. And it was just the thrill of doing it. And then some guy came to me one day and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting my own upholstery business. And I don't know how to get any stuff out. I'll take it out for you." So I got 2 or 3 rolls. Me and my buddy went in that night, went across the wall, got the 3 or 4 rolls that he told me to take this guy that was starting his own business. and we're putting them into the little mini car. And then the cars fall up, and me and my friend are in the car. Next thing is 5 police cars come in around
Oh
me.
my goodness.
And I'm just sitting there going, this is not going to be good. I don't know how I'm going to talk my way out of this one. And they come up and knocked on the window, and the little mini at the time, it slides like this, so I slid it like that. I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "So what are you doing there?" Just picking up some stuff." He goes, "What do you mean you're picking up some stuff? Who told you could pick up that stuff?" I said, "Nobody really told me. It's just nobody was using it, so I'm picking it up." He goes, "Yeah, come on." So they arrested us. and I told him that Jerry, my friend, had nothing to do with it, which he really did. He knew we were picking up some stuff from that was being stolen, but I got him off, and I got fired. And my Uncle John was just devastated. And my mom was devastated, and Dad, because your name's in the paper for getting fired for stealing. And from CRV was the name of the place. And that was it, of course. Then I went on to be fixing crash cars. I went on to fix crash cars for a year, and then I moved on from there. And then years later, I went back to the factory and went in there and signed some autographs and stuff.
I heard even when you weren't at fault, you had some issues with law enforcement.
Yes.
You were getting blamed for things
Yeah,
left
we got
and right.
We got blamed once. Me and my friend, we used to go into a bar because my friend worked behind the bar, and me and my other friend Tommy, I think we were like 16 or 17 at the time. The only reason we went to this bar was because it was free drinks, but it was
Good reason to go.
It was an IRA bar.
Oh.
And that's where the IRA hung out. And so there was a phone call made from that bar to the hotel where my mom works and my auntie works, and it was made from there. So then the police came in. It was, you got 5 minutes to go, the place is going to blow up. And so you got, next thing is me and Tommy, 16, 17, we're drinking our free drinks and we're sitting there, and then suddenly the whole bar was empty. Everybody's gone out except us. And then the policeman comes over and we got arrested. And I'm going, for what? And it turns out that somebody made the phone call from there, and they figured out, them being such great detectives, they figured out that it was me and Tommy.
Right.
Must have been the two
guy
guys
who
still
has-
sitting at the bar.
Yeah, who's still there.
Tommy Trainer didn't do nothing. And then we're sitting in this, they never told us why we were arrested, so we're sitting in the police station, and next thing is people are walking across all over the place, and one of the policemen shouts over the other guy, hey, mate, what's the telephone number of the Fairwells Hotel? The guy goes, man, I don't know. And then he says to another policeman, what's the number of the Fairwells Hotel, John? John goes, I don't know. I said, hey, Tommy, what's the number of the Fairwells Hotel? He goes, I don't know. Which I didn't, because we didn't make any phone calls. And we were on the phone talking with girls. We weren't on the phone saying there's a bomb going to blow up where my mom works.
Right.
So anyway, the next thing is they've got the telephone. And back in the day, it was like a huge big thing. So they're carting this telephone in. So
They brought the whole telephone?
They brought the whole telephone box off the wall. They brought it in. And I still didn't know what they were doing. I said, what the fuck, why are we here? Because they were always trying to catch me driving. So I had some information on, I was kind of used to the police, being on your ass a little bit. But yeah, they beat you up in those days. So they just beat it out of you. And they kept us there for long. They put us back in, they put us in a cell. And then my friend Tommy, who's never done nothing wrong in his life, he was always told not to hang out with me by his parents because I was the bad guy. He admitted doing it because they told me he can go home. So I never admitted, not because I didn't do that. You don't admit something you don't. And he didn't do it either. Yeah. But in the end, he said, yeah, okay, Tommy, you can go home if you just tell us what we want to hear. So we told him. And he never did, we never did do it. And the police came to the house a couple of days later, and I told them, guys, you don't know what the fuck you're even talking about because,
right.
You're not very good detectives if you think it was us because we didn't do shit.
Right.
They said, oh, really? And we were in the front room, the front room in the house where the priest goes and the doctor goes. So we're in the front. It was always nice at home back in Ireland. And we're all sitting in there. And so the policeman goes, really then? So why didn't you just come with us back to the station? So I said, oh, no, it's okay. It's all right.
They're just going to whoop your ass again.
They're going to take me back with my ass, yeah. And my mom goes, no, don't take him. So that was, because that's why if they think you're in trouble, then they're going to get you for something else. And we didn't do it. Tommy, and there was no charges. Charges were dropped. It turns out it was some local kids from the Protestant school in town did it. Later on they found out, but they never said nothing. And to this day, some people still think that we made that phone call. The name of the policeman was Prenty, Sergeant Prenty.
You still remember it?
A fucking cunt.
I could see Ron Dennis being the type of guy who, when he was going to talk to someone, was going to try and figure out everything about that person. Do you think he knew of your past?
No. Nobody knew about stealing from that place because...
Okay.
Well, it's not the past. I'm just not a Ron Dennis guy. There's certain people he likes. They're going to be corporate. And I was never going to be, even though the sponsors loved me and everything, I just wasn't a Ron Dennis guy. He would never have.
Could you imagine if Ron Dennis was still in McLaren, Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo being his drivers?
No,
I don't know if he'd go for it. I think he probably would tell Lando Norris to get off social media.
You see, Zach Brown is a really, really good guy. Zach I think that's the best thing that happened to McLaren in a long time. Everybody was stifling. He's not afraid to answer. Like if a journalist says, "Hey, Zach, what do you think?" He'll answer. You get on the radio. Ron Dennis, those guys. Back in the day, there was a couple of guys there that just... I'm not the only one that doesn't like Ron Dennis, by the way.
I'm sure.
He's way up on top of a lot of people's lists. I just can't say it now. Obviously, back in the day. And then I went back. Then I went driving with Eddie in 1983. Eddie Jordan convinced me to stay in England for one more year to do European Formula 3 with him, sponsored by COS, and I did. Even though I should have went to America then, I didn't. I stayed for another year with Eddie, and I remember Eddie. There was a jacket called, it was Marlboro Contracted Drivers, and there was only maybe 10 of them in the world, and you got a special Marlboro shirt, a Marlboro jacket. And just by looking at the jacket, you knew that driver was a contracted driver. Ron Dennis had one. 3 drivers or 4 drivers had them. And Eddie Jordan told me that he got me a deal and I was a contracted driver. And he gave me the special Marlboro red jacket that I had, But I never did get the contract or the bag. I got nothing, just the jacket. So Eddie got the jacket from somewhere. He said, go on over there and say hi to Ron. This is after the test and after everything else,
Was this Eddie messing with you or Eddie messing with Ron?
No, this is just Eddie telling me to go over and be nice to Ron. Walk over there and say hi to Ron, Tommy. And I got my Marlboro World Championship jacket on. Only 10 drivers or 10 people in the world had. That Eddie told me I'm a contracted driver for Marlboro. So I walked over to Ron. I walked over there and put my hand out. I said, hi, Ron. How you doing? And he just turned around and just looked at me.
Oh, man.
He looked at me and then just looked away. And then I looked over at Eddie, and I seen Eddie going.
When,
He didn't do it on purpose. He was trying to help me, like, go on. But
Try to see
of
if
course,
it
the
would-
jacket was a fake jacket. You know, I
Right.
wasn't a contracted driver, and Ron would have known that. He'd probably look at me with my fake jacket.
did,
We
That's
actually,
fucked up, dude.
we had a question from
What a dick.
It really is. We had a question from social media.
My face
regarding
turned
this.
completely red, just like
Oh,
the,
I
just like the
bet.
red fake
Oh, yeah,
jacket.
I
was
can
like-
imagine.
I was really embarrassed.
So, at Steve Camp, F1 wants to know: was there an opportunity to continue a pursuit for an F1 seat despite the rejection from McLaren, given the performance in the car that day at Silverstone?
Who was that from?
Steve Camp.
Oh yeah, hi Steve. Actually, that was when Eddie convinced me to stay for that year, thinking that there might be another chance. Eddie really wanted me to drive Formula 3 because the sponsor wanted me as well. I think it was Cos and Yokohama. It was Yokohama Tires wanted me and Cos. And so Eddie was killing two birds with one stone. He wanted me. He said, yeah, Tommy, why didn't you just stay with us? You never know. There's still a chance to get back in Formula 1, so come back. But there's really not. Once you get to the top in get to Formula 1, the chances of coming back again are pretty slim. But I did it anyhow. And we did go talk to Ken Tyrrell. And Ken Tyrrell was looking for £1 million.
Oh,
So
That's-
so that's at that time.
wow.
Then you're still.
Is that why you
have
see
to
like
pay.
drivers like Brendan Hartley, Marcus Ericsson, that were in Formula One, Stoffel Van Dorn, that were in Formula One for a short period of time? Is that why you see them not really trying to get back to Formula One? They've just moved on.
You don't get back. And especially Hartley and those guys, because they were in good teams.
yeah.
You know, I mean, they weren't in the shitty team. They were in a middle of the road to top team was
Right.
McLaren, right? No, you're not coming back.
Were you done with Europe when you were racing for Eddie?
You mean when I left her?
No, like you're racing for him.
Yes.
That was your mind made up that you didn't want to be there anymore?
1983, we had a great year with Eddie. I was leading the championship again, then something happened with the car and we lost it. We lost the championship. I finished fourth, but it would have been, if I had won, that would have been a European championship and British. But we used to we raced all around Europe. It was Gerhard Berger, Didier Taze, like about 4 or 5, Martini. There was a group of us traveling around Europe, and the journalists were all our buddies, so we had a great time. And we did some partying, and Gerhard's one of the biggest partiers, Gerhard Berger. And we had a great time. I remember Gerhard Berger crying because he didn't get the right tires from Michelin, because Michelin gave you the tires to win Monaco, because everybody's a Michelin, but then you get a special one that's better than the other ones. And Gerhard was just struggling. Well, and he wasn't crying, but he was so depressed. And then he quit racing, went off driving BMWs for a while, sedans, and all of a sudden he got a deal and he's Formula One, and he went on to do very, very well in Formula One. So, it's just the right place at the right time.
You said one of your favorite tracks was the Austrian Grand Prix.
The Austride Ring is what we used to call it back in the day.
Now it's Red Bull Ring.
Yeah.
Shit, what was I going to say?
My best track, really and truly, is the long Nürburgring Ring.
Oh, really?
But that's the.
What was it like
Because
running
that's all the driver. The driver matters.
It's like 76 turns. It's 76 turns. I went there in 1979. That's where I won my first race in the Nürburgring in Germany. 14 miles long, 76 turns, and we had a 2-lap race. And,
Holy shit!
And I won it. And that's when
What's it like driving that in a
it's
race
just-
condition?
It's just crazy good. I mean, and then I come back a year later and won it again, another car.
Wow.
Yeah, so no, that's
You
like,
won it without really knowing the course. A lot of the
no,
times it takes a long time to get used to
No,
that.
I knew the course.
You knew it.
Yeah, because a guy took me around in a Volkswagen Golf, and I'm a very bad passenger. He took me around in a Volkswagen Golf, around the Nürburgring for 10 laps, and I was shitting myself every single minute of the laps. And back in the day, my pole position when I went back in the Formula 4 car was 9 minutes 1.1.
Whoa.
I was on pole by 3 seconds quicker than the next guy, and but it was because I think it was an Austrian driver took me around in a GTI Golf.
Okay, so you did see it
as a passenger. Oh yeah, 10 laps, which is a lot to sit beside somebody around the Nürburgring. Yeah, I shit myself. Every lap was, because I was horrible. I'm still am to this day, horrible. So I learned the track. Now you just have to learn the track with a Formula Ford.
doing twice as fast.
And
as
then
what
you go
were
back the
doing.
next year and you learn it with a Formula Ford with wings and slick tires. So no, it's just, I was always pretty good at learning tracks.
Eddie Jordan was saying that you pick up tracks faster than almost
it
anybody
would have
else you
been,
knew.
I'd probably back in the day, in the 2 or 3 laps. There was no excuse for not knowing a track in my mind. So I could pick it up too. I went back to drive James Hunt's car a couple of years ago at Silverstone on the new track. It took me 3 sessions to try and figure it out. So that's the difference with old age back in the day.
Really?
Yeah. That would have been like a...
You would have had you were able to pick out your braking points, pick out the apex, pick out if it was a late apex, all that stuff.
Pretty close, yeah. It was just one of those things I was able to do. And remember, we used to have qualifying tires, and you asked me, how do you know where the... We used to be able to... There's a certain braking point for Formula One cars back in the day with race tires. Now you put on qualifying tires.
Right.
They're 2 seconds a lap quicker because they're sticky, and they only last for 2 laps, and then they're just done. Like you can they're just rubbers falling off the tire. So you've only got 2 laps. You go really, really slow for the out lap, all the way to the last turn, and bump, you're on it. I don't know how you know where to brake different and get back on the gas. I just knew. The good guys know how to do it.
You just feel it.
And the other ones have a bit of a struggle sometimes, and that's how they end up bad qualifying and good racers, but sometimes it's hard to come back. But I don't know how I knew.
Speaking of qualifying, there weren't many that qualified Theodore onto the grid in F1.
I was nothing special there, by the way.
No?
I wasn't that special. It was Jan Lammers was a good driver, and Daly was a good driver too.
Yeah, but
I'm
they're qualifying almost every single...
So I'm half a second. I might be half a second lap quicker, but at that time, it's not enough for the Theodore. You need a lot more than that.
Yeah.
To get that thing. There's just no grip in the slow turns.
And then trying to race from the back was completely different, right?
You just
than
hang
what
on.
you were used to.
Yeah. And you just hang on for, you just try to hang on.
When you came over to America and you started racing Indy Lights, what's your obviously you never made it to like IndyCar, just like, you had a little dabble in Formula One, but even in Indy Lights, I feel like you have a little bit of view of what IndyCar is like. Yeah. If you can compare IndyCar back then to Formula One, what was your
Formula One
take
is
on
Formula One is 1,150 pounds, and IndyCar back then would have been 1,500 pounds. So the grip in Formula One is way more than IndyCar. So the Formula One cars, the weight's a big thing.
Really?
Yeah, weight, like, think about 400 pounds. It's probably like 2 or 3 seconds a lap.
So
just for the weight.
The transition for you was easy because it was slower.
Indy Lights?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just it wasn't a problem. I drove Formula Ford. I came to America and drove Formula Ford 1600 again before I got to Indy Lights.
Really?
I went right back to square one. Started again. I was in Savannah somewhere, and I didn't nominate my tires. I was supposed to go SECA, the runoffs. I was helping Ralph Furman out, trying to win the runoffs for him. And so I remember I didn't nominate my tires to SCCA. And they wanted me to do an SCCA school.
Really?
They wanted me to do an SCCA school because I never raced in America before that track. And I said, really? I just drove Formula One and won 6 championships to get there. And I come to America, and you really do have to start all over again.
We just had someone on, and he was saying back then there were some pompous people running the SCCA. And it was an inclusive club.
They just weren't very helpful with new drivers, or instead of them trying to bring in more people into the series, or all series. SEC is huge. They would just give people a hard time. They were very good at trying to throw you out, basically. That's why NASA happened, the competition to SEC, and they kind of took over in the sedan type of stuff. So because they were friendly with all the competitors. If you didn't have a piece, they'd help you out, they'd help you here, help you there. And that lasted for about 10 years, and then they get up there too.
Do you work with SCCA now?
If I have to do runoffs with some kids or something, I will, but I don't do that as much anymore.
Has the culture changed at all?
Yeah, much nicer.
So it's a better way now than
yes, I think that some lady was the chairwoman for a while there, and it's much better than it was.
Yeah.
I have this theory that one, circuit racing in and of itself is more popular in Europe than it is here. But I have a theory that the way the sanctioning bodies and the clubs have fractured in America has really hurt that progression. In Europe, you're basically getting into FIA affiliated series very early, and you're on that path to Formula One.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I mean, there's so many different ways and competing ways to get to IndyCar or even Indy Lights. Does that hold America back?
Well, actually, the good thing about America is they have the stepping stone, they have the ladders, where you do Formula 4 2000. If you win that, that costs about 300 grand there, by the way, to start off at Formula 4 2000.
Jesus.
1600, 150,000 or something.
There goes my dream.
So there's Formula 4 2000 is the lowest rung of the IndyCar ladder. It's Formula 4 2000. Then they've got Mazda, which is 500,000. Then they got Indy Lights, which is over 1.4 now or something. Then you got Indy cars. But at least in America now, if you win everything, if you keep winning the championship, you move up to the next series, which that does not happen in Europe.
Really?
So you can there is a chance to get Indy cars with just the first 400,000 or 200, whatever it is. If you can win that first one and keep go, and go all the way up, you have a chance. Whereas in Europe, there's no. It's just, unless you're a Red Bull driver or Mercedes test driver.
I think that if there were, why do you think that there's not a lot of American drivers in Formula One?
They don't let the Americans over there too much.
Really?
Not really. I mean, I heard that there's lots of American drivers good enough that could be over there. But I think what you have to do is like Rossi did it, and he didn't make it out. He did everything right. He went over there, lived over there, did the FIA stuff just like you're talking about. He did everything, and he ends up getting into a crappy car in Formula One and did 1-2 races or something. And he's had, even the American team didn't hire him. So that's how bad things are when the American team don't hire you. So I don't know. I know you have to go live there.
Yeah.
And get the respect of all the Formula One people. And Rossi did that. And it still didn't work out for him, and the guy's awesome quick.
So friends and John Wayne brought you over to America. Did you have that same hunger to get to IndyCar like you did F1?
No.
Why?
I just got tired.
You're just done at that point?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't give up. I still won a lot of Indy Light races. But then to get fed up with the same guy doing Indy Lights, because that's supposed to be for you to move on. I did that like for 4 years. I made some money, but can't give up, you know. It's
How did you? Yeah, it's just unfortunate. I think it's just the way it was. And then you ended up racing in Mexico for a little while.
I went down to Mexico. I had no money. I was sitting at home, and I had the kids and everything now. So I really needed to be getting things, moving on. And went to Mexico and spent another 2 years down there because they love me in Mexico.
Yeah.
And I sold a helmet to a crazy guy down there. And he like $1,500 for the helmet. My last Bell helmet that I got painted, I sold it to him. And then that got me going. Then I got to drive down there with Formula 3. They call it Formula 3 y Formula 2. So I drove Formula 3 and Formula 2. And they love the racing in Mexico. Like 40,000 people would be down watching Formula 3 race.
Wow.
But the politics are huge down there.
Okay.
Like just like Formula 1, it's like going back to Europe. Everybody's like backstabbing, and you can't trust any of them. But I actually got paid because they thought when I was in Formula 3, the Formula 3 championship were fighting against the Formula 2 championship guys. They're infighting. I was in Formula 3, and then a guy died. Magana, his name was. He was driving a Section Amarilla car, a Yellow Pages car for one of the team owners, Rogelio Rodriguez. No, was it? Whatever. So he was driving for him, and then asked me to drive in Formula 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Jose Lagarza was the guy, the team owner. I said, yeah, I'll do it for $5,000 a race. And he goes, how about $1,000? I said, how about $5,000 a race? He goes, how about $1,000? I said, how about $2,000 cash in an envelope before I get in the car every time? You pay all my expenses back and forth to the track and my own hotel room, plus a mini bar.
Household Finance Corporation American Racing Series has its third winner of 1988 in 3 events. A good race, Derek Daly.
Indeed, Tommy vacates his office for the day, a good day's work. Just being congratulated there by his jubilant owner, Bill Boynton, who puts this team together for Tommy. Now taking off his helmet, we see Fangio, who couldn't quite make it into the number 1 spot, come and, yes, congratulate Tommy. Everybody had a good day.
Third career victory for that man. He picks up $19,500 for the effort. Let's go to the winner's circle.
Chris, we're with the winner in the pits, Tommy Byrne. Tommy, that was a great race, and you and Juan Manuel Fangio just ran away from everybody.
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to dedicate this race to my boss's wife, Susie, because she's at home looking after a sick auntie. But, yes, he didn't leave it easy for me.
Yeah, you held him off there in the last turn.
Yeah, you know, it's just when somebody's not close behind, it puts a lot of pressure on, and it's very slippy out there today, so, you know, it's easy to push and push from behind. It was very hard. It wasn't an easy win.
Tommy, thank you and congratulations.
I'd like to thank the guys here for giving me a great call. I'd like to thank my boss, Bill Boynton. Thank you. In the room. And he goes, okay.
That's a deal.
And true to his word, every time I went there, his secretary in Mexico City,
He was ready.
his secretary had the money with Tommy Byrne on it, and he's a man of his word. He's a little tight. He's tight, but
Give him a little pushback.
but a
when
man of his word. Now it turns out, now I'm driving Formula 2. I did a really good first race and nearly won it. I crashed into the leader, and we both spun out. Then my car started getting worse, and then the Formula 3 guys thought that I was in Formula 2 spying for the Formula 3 championship, trying to make me look bad. I'm not trying to win, so I look like a wanker, but because Formula 3 is a shitty series, and I go, what? So it turns out my team owner said, Tommy, the Formula 3 championship, they don't want you driving Formula 2 anymore. I said, I'm getting paid 40 grand to do it. And which I wasn't. I was getting paid $2,000 a race plus the minibar. And they goes, I said, okay. So they paid me $30,000 not to drive Formula 2.
Nice.
So I
That's a
went
deal,
back to Formula
Tommy.
3. Yeah. So I got a couple little deals like that.
I heard you met some people of ill repute down in Mexico.
Yeah, there was some ill repute people. I was going through a bad stage in my life there.
I don't understand. You know, yes, you were around some bad people and some bad things.
Well, they weren't really, bad people. They're just partiers.
Was there ever a way like you could have maybe taken them as a sponsor and went back to Formula One?
No, you're done. Remember,
So
at that stage,
again,
I'm
it's
30.
done.
I'm 30 years of age.
Oh, you were
Right?
kind of,
You're done. Yeah, you're finished now. Unless you're 18 in Formula 1, these days you're done. No, I couldn't have taken them back, but I could have maybe got IndyCar, or I maybe could have got IMSA, so there was always a chance of still getting a drive, and that's how I hung on for as long as I did. And then the ill repute, there was some party going on that I was kind of half involved with. There was a bunch of naked women running around, and this guy that was helping me out down there, he just went crazy one night and took his gun out and started shooting. You know how I feel about guns.
yeah.
And all these girls are running around naked with tits flying all over the place, and he runs out behind them, and they're all hide behind me. And I said, I forget what I called him in the book, but I can't call him his real name in case I get in trouble. I said, "¿Qué pasa, amigo? What?" And he took his gun, he shot twice, and missed me, and we all ran back in the room and hid there for a while.
Shit.
And we hid there for a while, and then I called my team owner, and the next morning I said, "We need to get out of here." So I took a cab over to him, and I said that he's lost his mind, and he's going to kill somebody, or kill me, or kill somebody else. And then I went back and that's when I kind of quit Mexico, and then went back over. And my friend Calvin Fish was working at the school in Mid-Ohio, and 1994, 95, I think it was.
And you're still there.
Yeah, and he got me a job there, and I've been kind of that was my kind of mainstay. You know, over the years, I always go back and forth to.
What was a
Mid-Ohio.
crazier night?
That's when I decided that it's time to move on.
What was a crazier night? That night or the Formula 3 championship dinner that you went to?
Yeah. I think that still hurt me, that one. The dinner when I was snorting a bag of cocaine. Which
What you
turned
thought
out, yeah.
was cocaine.
That's rough, man.
I just won the Formula 3 championship. I got my test with McLaren. Formula 1's over. And I go to pick up my prizes in the Formula 3 and I won Driver of the Year, Autosport Driver of the Year as well.
Right.
I didn't even know that till a couple of years ago. I found something.
Really?
Yeah. And I got a lot of prizes that night. So I'm sitting around. So that morning, my friend gave me a big bag of cocaine, and I tried cocaine like before that, probably a couple of times. I said, "Shit, why not?" He said, "Hey, do you want this? I took some last night. I was up all night. Do you want it?" And I said, "Yeah." It was we were talking about a quarter of a pound, maybe half a pound. It was a lot of bunch
cocaine.
of shit, yeah. So of course, this was 10 o'clock in the morning, and I started snorting straight away. And I remember getting my hair cut. You can imagine me on coke. So I'm just like,
You're already wired. So.
I'm all over the place, and my parties that night. You know, it's the big parties that night, or the prize giving. at 10 o'clock. So I was taking huge lines. And during the day, I just started taking a little bit more and a little bit more. I didn't know what I was doing, remember. It's not like I tried it once before, twice, and
Yeah.
2 lines, that was it. So I'm just fucking keeping at it. And I took a lot. Like, God knows how much I took, but it was a lot. And so that night, of course, things didn't work. I had a girlfriend at the time, and she dumped me. And I wound up, got the prize. That's right. I was sitting around the table, didn't eat nothing, of course. I don't know why I didn't eat. But then in the end, I gave it to my friend Stuart then, and the photographer guy that was with me that day. And I said, and I didn't tell anybody I was taking it, because there might have been a chance of something.
Yeah.
So I just kept it to myself.
Right.
So when they gave it to Stuart, he went into the bathroom, him and John, and they took some. He went out, he came back and said, "That's not cocaine, that's speed." And I said,
shit.
So it's cocaine, speed, what's the difference?
Yeah, there's a difference.
I guess there's a difference. So then it was 4 o'clock in the morning, then the girlfriend I had threw me out. Then I drove from her house over to the other side of London to the guy who gave it to me.
Yeah.
And my friend who gave it to me. And I woke him up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and he said, "I hope you didn't take too much of that," because I was up all night. And with this much? I said, "Yeah, I took probably half the bag." And
oh my goodness.
and he said, "Jesus." So he put me in bed, and I was in bed. My heart was racing for what seemed probably 4 hours, and it turned out it was like 4 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
So I got up and got out the door and drove all the way back to Norfolk. It was 120 miles away up north. So this is like just fucked up. And then I got up there, and I fell into such a depression for 3 nights. I don't think I slept for 3 nights.
Oh my goodness.
There's only one person I could call, because it's still a secret, and we were having a party there.
Sure.
Santa's mechanic was there. My friend Dave Meehan, who I was living with at the time. I didn't tell him. I'm upstairs, just
freaking out.
I know what it's like to be depressed. My life was over, misery. Thinking, shit, there's nothing left, and there was nothing left when you think about it. Yes, the cocaine or the speed brought on the depression and the misery and what I know it's like to be. Your life's over. My life was over. I just won everything. All happened. All came crashing down in 3.5 years. I went up to the top, and now it's all the way down the bottom, basically. And it was with the drugs kind of made me think about all that. And that was it. Once I got, after about 3 days of that, then I snapped out of it, and then moved on. But that stuff I was lucky I didn't die.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's crazy. When I got to that part of the book, I was like, Jesus, this is getting.
And then I seen a picture. I went up on the stage, and I gave all the stuff away, all the trophies away. I gave them to somebody somewhere.
You're shaking Nicky Lauda's head.
And Nicky Lauda, and then I looked at. It was like a couple of weeks later. I seen a picture of me and Nicky Lauda, and I said, I can't remember him giving me the prize. But nobody knew of all this. This was all something I put in the book years later.
Yeah.
But at the time, nobody would ever have known. Like 2 people.
That's unreal. Yeah. How did you? So I assume with the Mid Ohio thing, is that how you linked up with Michael Fassbender?
No. Michael Fassbender, I met him like 3 years ago. I met him at Daytona. He watched my movie on an airplane, and then he told Guy Hobbs' son, David Hobbs' son, Guy. And Guy said, "Hey, Michael Fassbender," I said, "He loved your movie." And then I found out that he was racing in Daytona in the Ferrari Challenge. I went to see him, and when I walked up, I said, "Hi, Michael," and he goes, "Oh, hi, John." He's terrible with names. And so we just became friends, and then he actually raced in a champ car with us in the BMW at Daytona the same year. I had him come back.
Black one,
I said, "You need more time," because he just started racing.
Yeah.
He's just learning his craft. So he has so much more to learn. So he was thrown in at the deep end with Ferrari Challenge stuff by Ferrari.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know the basics of, the guy's good and he's very dedicated. But I said, "Hey, come do a jump car race with us, and you'll get more track time than you will in the whole year doing that stuff, even though they're not as fast." And he came, and I had to talk my friend and let him drive because he couldn't heel and toe. Mm-hmm. And my friend goes, "He's not going to fucking drive our car. He's going to wreck the gearbox." I said, "No, he'll be fine." So I took him to Mid Ohio. I took him to Nelson Ledges. So I took him to a lot of places to teach him heeling and towing and driving and stuff. And he still never could figure it out. Heel and toe, because you don't have to in Formula 1.
It's all battle shifting, baby.
So we're here in Daytona, and it was me and his wife and the team owner, Carl Goodall, and Jimmy, the guy that I rode the bike with yesterday. I was sitting around the table the night before the race, and Michael pops up and he says to Carl, the team owner, because I told Carl, oh, he's fine, he's good to go, he can heal and toe, he's great. And Michael said to Carl, he goes, I just want to tell you, everything's great, but I can't do that heel and toe stuff. And Carl looked at me, he goes, he looked at me. I look at Michael, I went,
Shut the fuck up.
I just told you. He said, oh no, I don't have. I said, he'll be fine, don't worry about it. And it turns out that we won the race.
There you
Really?
go.
He did his stints. He did his two stints. He drove in the dry. He drove.
Was he heel and toeing in the stint?
No, he just, because there's still a way out of it. If you don't heel and toe, you just let the clutch out a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And so there's still a way out of it, but it's an art, and it's not that easy to teach it. But we won the first race ever together, and we had a great time. His mom was over and dad, because it was his birthday, the dad's birthday, and his coming up at the same time, and we had a lot of fun. And then I gave him another car next year to do it again, shitty car, and then we went to Ness and Edges, another shitty car. So we haven't been able to get together. Since COVID, he was coming over, and then COVID cancelled that. But now he's driving. He's driving for Porsche over in Europe.
Yeah, I saw that because I was watching that show.
He's still learning, but he's getting better and better. He's dead serious. He wants to do.
Yeah.
He wants to do a good job. Really, really nice.
If you ever need a driver, I have zero experience, but I'll get in there.
Hey, never know.
I'll drive it.
We've had people get in before with zero experience.
I could drive.
If I know anyone that could pick up anything real quick, this man's been making me feel like shit my entire life. He picks shit up so quick.
Oh, you guys are the best.
Probably not. Let's see. I don't know what else I have. What
we
did
told
you
all
have?
the bad stuff and everything.
Yeah, we went through all
told
the...
as good as we could, Tyler.
Yeah, we didn't
Even though
get
you
too
accused me
bad.
of being a thief, which I was.
Everyone has those spells.
By the way, I will say one thing. For some reason, the stealing thing, when I turned about I think it was around 18 years of age or something, just a switch went off and then I stopped. I've stopped thieving. I don't know what happened.
Do you
there.
think the adrenaline you got from racing took over what you needed from being a thief?
Yeah, for sure.
You were getting your fix from
You don't have to
racing.
wear it out now, I mean, I can say a thief, you can. No, you know what? That's a really good point, because it was around about that time. That's when it started. When I really started, when I thought I was the best driver in the world, around 18.
Yeah.
And I was always wondering what suddenly happened. And then I just quit. But yeah, I would have been, if it wasn't for the Formula Ones, if it wasn't for racing, you would never know where I would have gone, because there definitely was excitement. It wasn't so much, I wasn't doing it for, I loved it.
I don't know. For me, life moves real fast. Whatever you do, kind of always moves real fast. You're always thinking about the next step and thinking about the future and all that stuff. And when I am doing, like when I played hockey, I played a lot of competitive hockey and stuff.
I wouldn't
like
want
that.
to see you coming towards me with a hockey stick.
It was scary.
That's
But
for sure.
I played a lot of competitive hockey, and then even driving, I feel like it slows down when you play those fast action sports. So maybe it was how much did it slow down for you?
What, the driving?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's,
Going on a racetrack.
Yeah, it's after you've done it for a while. It's just when you spin off or something, or everything slows down. Especially the further ahead you look. When we're teaching, we do some defensive driving for teenagers.
Right.
And eyes up. The further ahead you look, the slower everything becomes. We just do it as race car drivers, automatic.
Right.
When you're teaching it, you have to teach people how to do it, because we all think that everybody does it, but they don't. But if you're looking down at the hood, the front of the car, everything's happening fast, and your hands follow your eyes. Wherever you look, that's where the steering's going to go. So you're looking over there, screwing around.
How hard is it to find the edge?
Gilles Villeneuve used to find it by crashing. Like, he would find it by spinning off and crashing, and to a certain point. But now these days, with all the information, with the data and everything, you can find it without crashing.
Really, you could look at the data and see you
Because
have another.
you can tell. You can tell the guy. Well, if you have a backup data, if you got a real quick guy in the team, well, you have to brake here with this car, with these tires, at this time. You brake at number 4. That's just the way it is. It's that simple.
That's crazy.
And how do you know? Well, because you got the driver coach and you hired them. That's how you can save a year or two to start off, and then you just start learning it yourself. But if they come in and say, "Oh, I'm braking at the 3 marker," no, you're not, because everybody. This is as late as you can possibly brake for this turn, and make the turn. So it's a lot easier in that way. The way we used to do it was we just found out used to run off the track a little bit, probably a little more than they do today, and because you have to, You have to learn somehow, but today it's a little easier because look at data. And they do come down on you for crashing too. Whereas in our days, they didn't. It wasn't that big. If you're a quick driver, yeah, you can have some crashes.
Oh, now you crash the car and it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's usually a bad thing. That means you're not.
So expensive.
It's expensive, and you're not taking it serious, or you're not thinking properly. So there's some pressure on them too as well. I never had that pressure because nobody told me. Nobody ever told me, don't you crash that car down. I just did what I was going to do anyhow.
Drove it on the edge and see what happened.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the current drivers, even though there's a problem, right? You say like it's a bad thing to crash the car. Personally, don't get me wrong, I'd feel bad if I crashed the car, but I think I would rather drive it on the edge and win the race than drive it cautiously and not crash the car.
You can't be thinking, if one of the young drivers I work with is going out to drive, and his dad just tells him, "Hey, you crashed that car, and we're done racing." He just lost a second lap.
That makes sense though.
Yeah. So you would never tell them. I would never tell them driving. You figure it out. Never think about crashing a car.
So I know you do a lot of work with the Mid Ohio track and the driving school and stuff like that. Have you ever? Is there a job out there where you can just be a specific coach for a specific driver and a team, or like some kind of analyst or anything like that?
Not really. I don't like racing that much.
Really?
No.
Kind of just.
It's hard.
Is it?
Coaching all day, yeah. I mean, now I'll do the ARR stuff. I mean, I have some drivers who want to go racing, and I'll take them racing. I'll get them into it to a certain level, and then, they can take it from there. But to professional coach, I've done it. I did coaching for 20 years. It's not just my favorite thing. I like defensive driving for teenagers is what I like the best. We have a little school up in Daytona at the Gary Yeoman Ford. They pay for 2-3 times a year. They'll close the place down, and we bring in the instructors, and we'll teach like 100 kids.
And you invented something for that, right?
It's called Diablo Drifter Drift Lift. Diablo
that
Drifter goes in the back of the car, and then you set it for it teaches slides, and then we teach the teens how to lose the car and then regain control by using your eyes and your hands and your right foot, moving the weight around the car.
So they definitely need that up north because of ice and stuff,
And
but
then
you
ice.
got to bring that down here because
The showers.
Yeah, man. When I-95 gets some wet puddles.
Yeah. It's really lethal.
You too, man. Don't be nodding to me.
I'll tell you right now, if I'm sitting with somebody, and especially if I know they're not a great driver, and I'm sitting beside them, and you're driving Miami, the showers come down, and they got their hand up here on top of 12 o'clock high, and they're just, or maybe just holding on like this, or maybe just this, and it's raining like that. I'm shitting myself because I know what can happen. I've seen this so many times. You just hit a puddle, and next thing is you're spinning off down the
On the way here, there were
I-95.
2 cars in the wall on 95.
Oh, yeah.
Past
well,
I've seen the same
yesterday,
thing.
Too, like
Same
4.
cars.
Man,
Crazy.
I want to think it was my skill, but I know it was the traction control. But
I don't know about that. A lot of the times, if you have an idea of how to do it, sometimes I feel like that instinct just kicks in, and you understand, like, all right, I have to counter steer, I have to, play with the gas.
I don't know. I was impressed at myself for catching it. I'm hoping the guys behind me were.
You're talking
they
on
all
the-
backed
on the
off.
highway?
Yeah, he spun one around the other day.
Oh, you did?
I didn't go all the way around.
What do you
I
mean the
caught
other
it
day?
A couple weeks ago.
What type tires have you got?
I'll show you when we go outside.
Yeah, and there's tires too. If you got really, really hard compound tires, they're no good in the wet.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many threads you have.
I'm going and I'm sitting there and I'm going straight, and I'm like, I got no steering. There's nothing. I'm just
Where's your hands?
here. But
So you're doing everything right. But
So then when I lose it, I'm catching the slide. I go one way, I catch it. I go the other way, I catch it, and I end up I'm going straight on the shoulder because I aim towards the shoulder. I'm going, and everybody's backing off of me, and I could just think what's going through their heads, like, oh my goodness, he's gonna lose. I caught it, but
and you hit nothing.
nope.
Lucky.
I had the exact same thing.
That's what I thought. I thought lucky.
I was on 95.
I'll hold on a little bit tighter in the rain.
I was on 95. I came out from underneath an overpass. I hit the water on the other side, and the car just went, and I counter steered, and the thing just kept spinning. I was going way too fast. I was probably doing 90 miles an hour.
As soon as it starts raining, it gets my attention,
Yeah.
especially with these showers in Florida, because the road is so hot in the first place. Then when the rain does come down, it's like a skating rink.
What hurt was when I told my mom. She went, "Who, you?" And I went, "Yeah, I caught it." She's like, "Really?" I was like, "Why are you so surprised?" She goes, "'Cause driving, I just don't, when I think of good drivers, I'm not thinking of you." I'm like, "Wow, thanks, Ma."
I'm thinking you got lucky.
Oh,
I spun it all the way around. I was looking at headlights, and then I brought it all the way back and straightened it out and kept going.
He's crazy.
You're lucky too. must be the red beards.
Well, that's all I really had. I mean, I'm good, man.
I got so much more, but
I'll
it's
just
not
figure
right
it out
for
and bring me
this.
back again. But I think I've already said too much.
Yeah.
So I think I'm okay. Trouble
I didn't
wise.
say anything that
I don't
bad.
think I'm going to be.
We tried to
I probably
keep you
said
clear.
stuff that was a little worse than you said stuff because I respect everybody, right? Until I meet them, I give them the benefit
Yeah.
of the doubt. So as much as I read your book and I read the things about people and I have I will go ahead and if Ron Dennis wanted to come in here and sit down,
Sure.
and I'd bullshit with him
Yeah.
and see what he has to
No,
say. But
absolutely.
I'm not afraid to also tell you like if I feel a certain way about you, I'm going to tell you what I feel. That's a good thing and a bad thing sometimes, but it's a respectable.
No,
thing,
it's
I
good.
think.
You guys do a really good job here. Good show.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I appreciate you coming down. I know it was a little bit of a drive for you.
It's all right.
I'm
I got to see my friend and I rode my mountain bike this morning at 7:30. So
there you go.
Worked out
I'm very I'm a bit starstruck to be honest with you.
yeah, it's all right.
So
Because of the 7 foot Tommy.
7 foot Tommy.
And the 5'5" Tommy.
This is my 7 foot, 5 foot 5.5. This is my 7 foot Tommy. He travels with me around the world when I go traveling. I've lost him. I've
that's your
lost it.
bodyguard.
I've lost that at least 4 times and found it again.
Really?
Oh yeah, I left on an airplane once. Yeah, it's terrible
That's
because
a-
it's the only one.
I like it.
I love
How do
it.
we get one? Can we
Uh,
get
you-
one for the show or
you-
you just keep it in the back of the
you
show the whole
don't.
time? You don't.
I mean, I suppose I could get the information on how to do it, and then you make it up. But
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure
I
out
got a
something.
place. This was awesome.
This was
Thanks,
a good
guys.
time.
Appreciate
This
it.
was
Great.
really fun. I really appreciate you coming down. We'll do it again sometime for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll bring some drinks next time.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. You give me.
I didn't
No,
know.
if you brought some drinks, it'd be double the stories.
Well, what's funny is there's times where I've brought drinks and people are like, oh no, I don't drink, or I don't want to, I don't want to be like that here. And then there's times where I bring drinks and I'm the only one drinking it,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
So you
now I feel like an
You
idiot.
feel like an alcoholic.
Yeah. But next time I know.
Anyone you want to thank? or?
Even if I didn't want it, I would do it just to
Make you somebody else feel comfortable.
just to make you feel comfortable. Yeah. That's what I did when I did
'Cause
all
you're
the
a nice
cocaine that
guy.
time.
Yeah,
when you gotta give me all the cocaine.
I can't say no.
I'll take it. I'm not going to say no. No, I like the Aero, of course. My friend Jim McGuire here, who lives there. Oh, sorry, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah, good.
Jim has been my sponsor for a long time, and he helps me and my son TJ. TJ does a little bit of driving. And talk about driver coaching. When I do driver coaching now, I don't sit with anybody. So, but my son TJ still will. So I'll just put him in, and he does the same. He does the same as I do when it comes to. He drives the same way, so he can tell them what to do. But he's got the balls.
It rubbed off.
I don't have the balls to do that.
It
Yeah,
rubbed off on
Yeah.
TJ.
yeah. He's a better coach.
All right, and if you want the full story, we'll put it up again. But
Buy the book. I don't care what you do. I'm going to put it up on here. The website is going to be right here below my face while I'm sitting here talking to you. Go buy the book. Go read the story. You owe it to yourself. It's awesome. I don't read much, and I read it in a day. I couldn't put it down. It's
great.
Just one good story after the next. Gives you a different view of the Formula One life, especially for somebody like myself and my brother. I didn't come up with a lot of money.
I think you were a little
So-
brokenhearted when you read some of those things.
Yeah, well, not really brokenhearted because you see things on TV and you expect them to be a certain way, and people aren't around anymore, and not even that people aren't around anymore. Things happen in the past, and you hear the golden era of Formula One being the 70s and the 80s and the things like that, and you're like, that was the time where everything was great and all the racers were great, and in the drivers' meetings everyone was respectable and everyone loved each other, and that can't be the thing because that's the competitive side.
Actually, and I let CJJ as well.
There you go.
This John Campion, who's on Campion. They have a lot of Irish drivers at the moment. They got their own team in Europe and over here, and he's got the biggest collection of Martini cars in the world.
Where is he?
And he's up in Jacksonville, New Jersey, Manhattan, three different
around.
places.
We're gonna have to go see that guy.
3 different places. Yeah, he might be down here.
Have you ever
sometime.
been to the Revs Institute of Automotive Research?
No.
I think we're gonna have to take a trip, Tom.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely.
Well, we appreciate you guys joining us for this last however long we've been going. I had a blast, and we're definitely gonna do it again. Maybe next time we'll come up to where you are at Daytona Beach.
Sure.
And we'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. That was pretty cool.